Well, hello, everybody. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Start with an invocation, which we observe by a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Agent,
Here.
Clegg,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Sanchez,
Here.
Thompson, Woodings,
Here.
5 present, 1 absent.
And next up, we have council minutes from the work session and evening meeting on the 14th for approval.
Madam Mayor, I ask approval or move approval of the city council minutes of the work session and the regular evening meeting of September 14th, 2021.
We have a motion, a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And next up, we have under special business, a request to reconsider CUP 21-15. Hi, Kevin. You know, that microphone, I think we might need to turn on.
There we go.
Perfect.
Madam Mayor, members of council. As you may recall, this item was an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of a conditional use permit for a wireless communication facility that you heard back on August 31st. So in that meeting, council denied the appeal. The appellant, David DeHaas, has requested you reconsider your decision. So as you know, the purpose of a reconsideration request is to resolve disputes or disagreements kind of at the lowest level possible. The idea, though, is that there's new information that was not available at previous hearings. From our perspective, after reviewing the letter we received, which is included in your memo, the reconsideration request does not provide new facts or evidence, but really just does appear to dispute items you already carefully considered. That being said, it is entirely at your discretion if you wish to reconsider, and if you do, we will renotice for a future public hearing date. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, I didn't see any new information, and reconsideration would require that. I would not be inclined to do so.
Well, it looks as though the reconsideration request goes no further for lack of motion. Thank you. And with that, we will move into the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the agenda, general order of business, and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
And now we will move into ordinances on first reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on first reading be read by number and title only and filed for the second reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 43-21. An ordinance amending Boise City Code Title 3, Chapter 3, Section 9, Retailer's License to amend the expiration date. Amending Boise City Code Title 3, Chapter 4, Section 9, Expiration of Permit to amend the expiration date. Amending Boise City Code Title 4, Chapter 3, Section 2, License Fee Required Transferability to amend the issuance date and provide an effective date.
Thank you. And next up, second reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on the second reading calendar be read by number and title only and filed for the third reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 42-21, an ordinance amending Boise City Code Title 6, Chapter 10B, Section 6 to add Juneteenth, June 19th to the City of Boise City's list of holidays for which city parking meter spaces are free and provide an effective date.
Thank you. And now third reading.
Madam Mayor, I move that further reading of ORD 4121 be dispensed with and the record reflect that it has been read for the third time in full. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. ORD 41-21, an ordinance for property located at 2605 Linda Vista Lane, amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance and adjacent rights of way from R-1B to R-1C, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of such zone change and provide an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move that ORD 4121 be approved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk?
Sanchez.
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And now we will move into subdivisions. With this first one, Kevin is here, Ben Simple, imagine is online. We don't expect the north end, but let us know if Nina is here, and no one has signed up in advance. Are any of you here for this? All right, this will probably be pretty straightforward. And just for the record, this is not related to me. And with that, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll wait for my presentation to show up here. Perfect. Madam Mayor, members of council. So this is a preliminary plat application for a 5-lot residential subdivision at 615 North 7th Street in an LOD zone. Property is located here in red, just a couple blocks north of the state capitol building. So the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item back in August and approved the associated PUD and variance applications for the project as shown there on the left. This consists of, it's actually kind of a unique mixture of housing types, including townhomes, a detached single-family home, and an ADU. It's also worth noting that as part of the development, the applicant is retaining a portion of the existing building currently on the site and reconverting it back to a residential dwelling. Interestingly enough, this 115-year-old brick building shown there on the right was originally constructed for a J.W. McLean, a city council member back in 1903. And that's where the applicant is getting the name from.
Maybe I can finally claim 5th generation status is
There
what
you
I
go.
ought to be doing.
Yep. So with all that being said, we have not received any opposition to the project. And as you probably saw in your packet, Preservation Idaho did submit a letter in support. During their meeting on August 2nd, the Planning and Zoning Commission found the applicant's proposal to be consistent with the standards of approval and requirements. And as such, they recommended approval. And I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Madam Mayor.
Yep.
Just a note for the record, there was correspondence from the Preservation Idaho organization indicating that they worked with the developer, and while they would have preferred that the full building be preserved, they recognize after working with them that this seemed like a good solution. I have one question. Given all of that, it looks like the materials on the new building, well, certainly, you know, our standards call for the new building not to mimic an old building. But the materials seem to be quite modern as well. And I wonder if there was any discussion about matching the brick, or at least a portion of it, on the existing building in the new building.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that's a good observation and certainly something that caught our eye as well. We have flagged it for our design review team, who will be reviewing the preceding design review application, where we can kind of address those materials at a little bit greater depth.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like you're for now, Ben. Are you there? We see you.
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, Ben Semple, 1450 West Bannock Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. Yeah, the project, as Kevin kind of briefly touched on, is a 5-lot subdivision. There will be 4 townhomes, a detached single-family home with an attached garage, and then an accessory dwelling unit above a garage associated with the existing building to be converted back to a residence. In late 70s, early 80s, this was all converted to an office building. It's housed the Idaho Hospital Association for quite a while. We went through this building extensively, trying to figure out if there was the potential to save the entire thing. Ultimately, after some multiple structural reviews, some geotechnical analysis on it, it was determined that the two red brick structures, which aren't really visible in this picture, but they're the ones that are further or closer to the alley. Some people had come in at some point in time and gunnited over the foundation, which effectively trapped a bunch of water against it, and it's starting the process of falling down interior of the building. So it was determined that the only viable way would be to take those portions of the structure down and then save this one. It has it's the most structurally sound portion of the existing building, although it is going to take some very substantial upgrades to bring it into compliance with current building codes. That being said, we're extremely excited about not only having worked with Preservation Idaho, we talked with SHPO on this one as well, just looking at the history of the building and trying to retain this part of history of this area of Boise, being so close to the Capitol building. We think it's a very unique opportunity to provide some additional housing for people right in the downtown core and also within a historic structure. Not that it's designated as historic, but it is adjacent to historic districts, and the neighborhood itself was inventoried at one point in time. To touch a little bit on Councilmember Clegg's comment about the materials, it's difficult to replicate the historic construction techniques and the look of that historic structure with new construction techniques. We are bringing the red brick that is on the existing structures to come down into the design of the new townhomes connected to the structure that's to stay. The design review documents, that application has been submitted. It's currently under review. The renderings of it don't do it justice, but we will be finding a finish on that red brick that matches as closely as possible that look of that historic brick that's there now. So we feel like even though there's going to be some juxtaposition of a more modern or contemporary design, that brick is really going to be prominent. There's some features on it that the architect is referring to as a blade, effectively the party wall or the demising wall between the townhome units that will be visible in front. It'll be proud of the face of the structure itself, and it will also carry through all the way through the building. And with the glass on the front, yeah, so you can see here that red brick vertical line there. It projects from the face of the structure. It also carries into the interior space. So through that stairwell glass, you'll be able to see that brick interior as well as exterior of the building. So we do think it'll create a nice transition, and it won't be too out of place. The single family home is still under design right now. So that was not submitted for design review at this time. We'll come back with a separate application on that before any building permits go in for the single family portion of it. One thing that was not in the documents that has become apparent, one of the trees along 7th Street is an old elm, has some pretty major disease going on. At the time of the inventory of the site, it was still, the growing season really hadn't started fully. So we thought it was still healthy, but upon subsequent visits to the site, there's about a 36-inch caliper elm within the planter strip on 7th Street that has to be removed due to health problems. One thing that does is it allows for aerial access for the fire department to the roof of the new units along 7th Street. I actually just had a conversation with the fire department today regarding that, and they see that as a good opportunity for them to provide fire protection for the new portions of these structures. Even with that removal, we are adding 5 class 1 trees along the 7th Street frontage, as well as another class 2 tree at the corner on the building side of the sidewalk. So there'll be some nice depth of vegetation. If you can see on this image, the 36-inch elm closer to the alley is the one that has to be removed. That provides for the aerial access from the street to the roofs of these units. If there becomes an opportunity to plant some additional trees out here, we'll look at that as well. There may be the opportunity to add another one on the Franklin Street frontage, although we do exceed the required number of trees as it is right now. So that's kind of what I wanted to touch on real quick, and I would stand for any additional questions.
Yeah. Ben, thank you. It was hard from the renderings that we had to see that was brick, or that, and it's good to know that you're reusing some of the brick from the original building. Also appreciate your comments about the trees. I guess I would have one question, and that would be whether or not, as you look to replace the elm tree that's, well, not replace it, but as you look at the number of trees, based on the fact that the elm tree will have to come down, whether there is any restriction from power lines or such, whether you could put in a class 3 tree instead of the smaller trees, at least one, to replace the elm, which is a class 3.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, yeah, I think that there is an opportunity to get a class 3 tree in there. There are not overhead power lines. Most of the power lines run in the alley on this one, along with the rest of the utilities. So we could look, probably the opportunity for a class 3 tree would be at the corner where you see that class 2 tree, just to the right. Yeah, that one. We could look at finding a class 3 variety that would work there. Would probably be the most appropriate place to place that additional tree.
Thank you.
All right, it doesn't look as though there are any further questions. And nobody's here for this. I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve McLean Terraces subdivision, SUB 21-37, Boise City preliminary plat at 615 North 7th Street.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to comment. I lived a couple of blocks from here on Franklin when I was working downtown just after college. And this is one of the best residential neighborhoods for people who are working downtown. It makes your life super walkable. You never have to get in a car. And I think it's exactly what we need close to downtown. I also appreciate that the developer retained that really cool building on the corner, even though they didn't have to. I've always admired that building, and I've always wondered why the red brick building next to it was so weird. And so now we know the answer. So thank you for a really thoughtful development that adds some much needed housing to our downtown area.
All right. Well, with that, clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And good to see you, Ben.
Thanks. Good to see you too.
Next up, we have the Derby subdivision, SUB 21-36. And do I say Delaney or Delaney?
Delaney.
Delaney, hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here. Delaney's representing PDS tonight. Then Truman Matthews. Is Truman online or here present? You? Great. Okay, alrighty. We don't expect the West Valley Neighborhood Association. Nobody's signed up for this. Correct? Okay, this will probably be pretty straightforward. Go ahead.
Great. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before you is a request for a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 1 common and 7 buildable lots on 0.99 acres located at 11436 West Ustick Road in R1C zone. At the August 2nd Planning and Zoning Commission, the subdivision and associated PUD was passed on consent. The project site is bordered by a vacant lot to the west, townhomes to the east, and single-family homes to the north. The project is less than half a mile to a designated neighborhood activity center at West Ustick Road and North 5 Mile Road. Site access will be provided by an existing shared 22-foot driveway curb cut from West Ustick Road. Internal to the site will be a 25-foot wide private road with a hammerhead turnaround. The applicant has attempted to connect with the private road to the east, West Stallion Lane. However, the homeowners association was not in agreement to provide access to this proposed development. The Stallion Townhome subdivision was developed with the Stallion Lane as a private road, and at that time, no cross access, easement, or agreement was put in place. Although it'd be ideal to close the existing curb cut and access from West Ustick, opportunities for connection were explored and are not available at this time. There are existing improvements along West Ustick Road, which include improved 5 travel lanes, on-street bike lane, curb, gutter, and 5-foot wide detached sidewalk. The project is conditioned to provide a 10-foot wide landscape buffer from the back of sidewalk along West Ustick Road to match the development to the east. With that, the decision is before the council this evening, and I'll be available for any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
The site plan doesn't show any trees in the buffer between the roadway and the sidewalk. Are there plans to put trees there?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, I'll show this aerial. It might be a little helpful. There are some existing street trees on that detached sidewalk along West Ustick Road. Those trees are required to remain, and then an additional landscape buffer from back of sidewalk will also be required. So there are opportunities for the trees on both sides of the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. I guess the other, just a comment, a lesson learned that while it didn't maybe look like there was an opportunity for connection, we should always anticipate at least a cross-access agreement on all of these so that at least you can walk in between. Thanks.
All right, with that, you can go ahead and come up. And we'll need you to read your name and address in the record. I didn't catch it from afar.
Ben Lehman. So Ben Lehman,
Great.
Borton Lakey Law Offices, representing Epic Developments,
Okay.
141 East Carlton Avenue in Meridian.
Great. And given that this is a sub, typically we'll just ask if you are in agreement with terms and conditions of the staff report. If not, let us know and go through that. Or if you want to answer any questions that were asked by council, these typically are straightforward.
Yeah, sure. I can stand for questions. We don't have any objections. That's why I went through consent with planning and zoning, is we're okay with all of the conditions, and have been working with ACHD with those kind of things. So we're okay with that.
Great. All right. Any questions for the applicant? All righty, that's it then. Thanks so much. Just confirming nobody is here. And with that, we'll close the hearing.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move approval of the Derby subdivision, SUB 2136, Boise City preliminary plat at 11436 West Ustick Road.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And next up, we have SOS 2117. And welcome back. We've got Marty Crockett. Is Marty?
Marty
online?
Crockett is online.
All right. We don't expect Hillcrest Neighborhood Association. Let us know if that's wrong. And is anybody here for this? All right, nobody is here for this item. All right, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before you is a plat note request to partially vacate a rear yard setback located at 5426 West Spalding Street in an R1C zone. In residential zones, detached accessory structures under 500 square feet and less than 14 feet in height can have reduced rear setbacks of 9 feet. This vacation is for a proposed detached 416 square foot ADU. The New Day subdivision plat note has a 25-foot rear setback. So with this vacation, the ADU could be constructed at the proposed 9 feet from the rear property line, as the parcel would be subject to the R1C development standards. The planning team does recommend approval, and I'm available if you have any questions.
We had no questions on this project, so is it Marty? Did we see that you're online? Are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report?
Yes, I'm in agreement.
All right, are there any questions for the applicant? Marty, it looks like there are no questions for you. And then-
Awesome, thank you.
Sure, want to just confirm one more time before closing that we're good?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there's no one online for this one.
All right, with that, I will close this public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of SOS 21-17, Marty Crockett, 5426 West Spalding Street. Request to vacate a plat note.
Second. We have a motion and a second?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could just real quickly, Marty, thank you for bringing this forward. We need more accessory dwelling units in this city, and this is a perfect place for one. And I'm glad that removing the plat note allows that to happen.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have something, council member? No. No? Okay. All right, clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And now we will move on to the public hearing portion of the evening. We have CPA 21-1 and Boise Planning and Development Services is here to discuss the comp plan amendment to adopt the North End Neighborhood Plan by reference. And Deanna, welcome. Good to see you. We have Eric Hagan from the North End. All right, Eric's in the room. And then anyone here other than that here for this? All right, anybody online?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, go ahead, Deanna.
Madam Mayor, Council, I'm excited to present to you CPA 21-1, an amendment to Blueprint Boise, the city's comprehensive plan to adopt the North End Neighborhood Plan by reference. Neighborhood plans at the city of Boise are a partnership between residents and the city to explore a wide range of topics as they relate to the future of each neighborhood. Neighborhood plans are used to capture neighborhood values, local conditions, history, and neighborhood needs. As such is the reason I'm here tonight. Neighborhood plans are adopted by City Council to supplement the city's comprehensive plan. While I'm excited to share the final North End Plan document with Council and the public tonight, I'm very proud to speak to the process we took to develop the plan. Over 18 months and through a global pandemic, we worked with North End residents to learn, vision, and create together. The North End Plan is truly a neighborhood-built plan. Throughout the planning process, we engaged over 1,000 residents through events at North Junior High, Hyde Park, and Camelback Park, and through online surveys. Throughout the process, the Neighborhood Planning Committee, composed of various residents and stakeholders, volunteered hundreds of hours to help craft the plan to ensure that our engagement efforts reach the broadest audience possible. The North End Plan has 6 chapters in which we provide first a short piece on the neighborhood's history written by historian and local neighbor Susan Stacy titled The Legacy of the Grid. We also offer a data snapshot of the North End today. We put the neighborhood plan in context with other City of Boise and partner agency plans. We provide the basis for action, which is the section where we document all of the public engagement and the results that we learned. And then chapters 5 and 6 are really the meat of the plan, which I'll describe in more detail. Similar to other strategic plans, a neighborhood plan framework is pretty straightforward. With the neighborhood, we identify a future vision to work towards and values that the neighborhood agrees it will hold constant throughout the process. Then we identify a set of goals to support the vision and specific actions or projects that we can complete to make progress on the future state we envision. As I'm sure many of you can imagine, when residents think of the North End, images of front porches, alleys, bicycles, trees, dogs, cats, all sorts of things pop into your head. These characteristics and the desire to protect them while acknowledging that change can be positive is reflected in the neighborhood's vision shown on the screen. In addition, the neighborhood prioritizes values of walkability, inclusivity, and stewardship. While listening to the neighborhood in the first phase of the planning process, many thoughts and concerns fell into one of the 6 buckets shown on the screen. We used the feedback we received to craft goal statements surrounding each of these topics. mobility, housing, neighborhood engagement, placemaking, natural spaces, and sustainable systems. Finally, we developed a set of actions related to each goal. In total, the North End Plan has 108 recommended actions, projects, or policies. Within the implementation chapter, these actions are organized by who can lead, the city of Boise, the neighborhood, or if the project would require collaboration with stakeholders, agencies, or partners. Some of the priority actions include support or establish bicycle and pedestrian education and encouragement campaigns, inventory and conduct a study to assess the impact of short-term rentals and ADUs within the neighborhood and across the city, or launch a 1,000 tree campaign in conjunction with the city's 100,000 tree campaign. I shared a similar presentation and packet with the Planning and Zoning Commission in August, where they recommended approval of CPA 21-1. So the motion before you is approval of the application.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think one of the very first pictures that you had in there was the last planning meeting on the day that the first COVID case landed in Idaho.
Yes.
I remember being there and kind of wondering, like, is this the last, in-person meeting that we're going to do? And I'm really, really glad that the neighborhood was able to stick with it and continue all the way through the process. I think that shows a lot of grit during a really tough time and really a community and a neighborhood thinking about the future. So big thank you to all the folks in the neighborhood and for you for kind of pushing through in a really tough time.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, thanks for that, Jimmy. Let's go ahead and hear from Eric with the North End Neighborhood Association.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, we've sat down as the North End Neighborhood Association with Ms. Dupuy and gone over the plan, as well as all the neighborhood members and the stakeholders and the players within the North End that have been part of this years-long process to review that. And we are in total agreement with the document, and we can't wait for its approval. We feel that it's going to create greater guidelines, more clarification in the neighborhood. It'll make it easier, more user-friendly to use for planning and zoning purposes within the neighborhood, helping the homeowners and improving the use and connectability of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Eric? Anyone here for this? Nope. Anyone online? All right. Well, that is the signal that the process was thorough and good for the neighborhood. With that, any further questions before we close the hearing? All right, I'll close the hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of CPA 21-1, City of Boise Planning and Development Services Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment to adopt the North End Neighborhood Plan of 2021 by reference. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, I helped work on the last neighborhood plan for the North End Neighborhood Association, and it's good to see this update. It's certainly time to look at some of the things that are happening in the neighborhood. I appreciate the work that went into this plan. I think for me, it gives me a bit of pause to see that the income level has increased pretty dramatically, that the rate of home ownership has increased, and in a way that actually may not be such a positive thing, but will impact the diversity of the neighborhood. And yet the plan looked at those things and recognized that. Strategies to counteract that are going to be hard to come by, but I think at least we have a basis now of understanding that diversity that has been so valued in this neighborhood is something that is valuable and that people look forward to trying to preserve. So I really appreciated that about the plan.
Thank you. All right. It looks as though there are no further comments. So with that,
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Deanna. All right, next up, we have CUP 21-33. And this is a special exception application. We have Cody for PDS. The applicant Cassie Schaefer and Jeff Likes. Are you online?
Madam Mayor, Jeff Likes is online.
All right. Southwest Ada County Alliance is a neighborhood association. They are not expected. Is that still the case?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
And is any? Did I just hear something?
We're online. Can you hear us?
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry, Jeff.
Sorry. Yeah, it
asking-
clicked off. I'm sorry.
I was just asking, we're getting everything teed up. We'll let you know when it's, I knew that you were there. Thank you, Jeff. We'll let you know when you're up. Is any member of the public online?
No one for this item, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All righty. Well, right now we have nobody signed up in the room. Nobody's online. We'll go ahead and start with Cody and then move to Cassie and or Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. If we could toggle to my screen, please. That's perfect. That's great. This item is a request for approval of a special exception to operate a nail salon in a portion of an existing home that's addressed at 11885 West Overland Road. For those unfamiliar with the area, it's on the south side of Overland, roughly halfway between 5 Mile and Cloverdale Road. The property is zoned residential or R1A, which prohibits commercial uses, including salons of this scale. This salon was actually brought to our attention because it was already in operation and brought to our attention through the code enforcement based on a complaint expressing concerns by the neighbors. Again, the site is already occupied by a single family home. The request is to use, I believe, about 400 square feet of the structure as a salon. That would include 2 stations for hair and 2 for nails. And this could allow for up to 4 employees. Special exceptions are really, as you know, intended to support uses of equal or lesser impact than those that are allowed. You also need to find that it's compatible with surrounding uses in the neighborhood and that zoning is not available in the area. And then finally, that the site is large enough to accommodate the use. In this case, we do have commercial zoning about 1/4 mile to the west at the intersection of Overland and Cloverdale. Also, a salon with 4 employees is probably more intense than some of the other allowed residential uses. Now, even if we make those findings, the real challenge here is that the site isn't large enough to accommodate the use. As you can see here, the existing home is roughly centered towards the front of the property, which precludes providing the required parking in front of the parcel. There's also not enough room to provide the parking or provide the 2-way service drive to the back of the property. You only have about 17 feet between the home and the adjacent and the western property line. 2-way service drive requires 20 feet as well as a landscape buffer. And so there simply isn't the space to get back there to the required parking. So in conclusion, for those reasons, the commission back in August did recommend denial of the special exception. From a staff perspective, we do acknowledge that compared to other commercial uses, this is relatively low impact, but it would be difficult to say equal or less than others that might be allowed. Again, however, with the placement of those existing improvements on the property, the site simply isn't large enough to accommodate the proposed use. Because of this, we are recommending denial of the special exception this evening. I would note that the applicant can, as an allowed use, operate a single station salon as a home occupation on the property. Thank you.
There questions for Cody?
Madam Mayor.
Yep.
So Cody, you noted the single station salon. I guess the assumption is that in a home occupation, you wouldn't have 2 people from the same household working in that occupation?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, the home occupation ordinance doesn't allow, it requires the owner of the property or the person residing there to operate the business. It doesn't allow a separate employee. It could allow, I suppose, someone, in relation that also resides in the home, probably be a difficult thing to enforce. I suppose if you headed down that road, we could look at an allowance for maybe a 2-station facility and try to condition it to that effect.
So if it were a husband and a wife and they were both the only people working in the home occupation. Would it be allowable under our home occupation rules to have a 2-station salon?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, yes, outside of having an employee from outside the home, yes.
Okay, so as long as they didn't employ anybody outside, they only they were the people who worked it.
That's
And
correct.
that would be a different process than what we're at tonight. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that's correct. With 4 stations and no
Yeah.
limitation on employees, that's correct.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Cody, in the R1A zone, if the house was demoed and if you were able to put in the most amount of housing that you could in that particular spot, I mean, would you be allowed to put in, how many different units could you put in there?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, you're really testing my math skills
Sure.
on the spot. No, in the R1A zone, it only allows two units per acre. So in this case, the one single family home is the only thing that would be allowed, but you could construct a duplex on the property.
Yeah, and Madam Mayor, just quick follow-up. The reason why I ask is just when we're talking about the impact as far as the amount of people using the space, to see if you could just with residential get the same that you could with having 2, chairs and the amount of traffic that would create in the day. And it doesn't seem like with the amount of housing that you'd be able to put on there that you could equal that of a nail salon.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Halliburton, I should also clarify that you could have a single family home in the accessory dwelling unit as well. Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Good evening. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Hello, good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Cassie Schaefer, and I'm here representing ALC Architecture, 119 East State Street, Suite 120, Eagle, Idaho, 83616. So this is an automatic appeal for a special exception that was heard on August 2nd. And we are here present regarding the recommendation to deny by the City of Boise Planning and Zoning Commission for the operation of the in-home nail salon at 11885 West Overland Road. So currently, as was previously stated, a 1-station nail salon comprised of 1 nail table and 1 pedicure chair is permissible in this zone as an in-home occupation. Currently, a building permit application to make required improvements for the single station in-home occupation are in review at the City of Boise. Pending approval, the homeowner would like to add 1 additional nail station to the space, allowing the possibility of 1 family member or 1 outside employee to simultaneously provide nail services. The request for an additional nail station is really derived from the owner's need to make a living from home long-term and also offer care to an elderly family member who resides in the home. The additional nail station provides a greater flexibility for offering nail service requests to more than 1 customer at a time, allowing receiving services here to take on a more social experience, as is the nature of nail service facilities. Oftentimes receiving a nail service is done with the accompaniment of a friend, as I can personally testify to. However, financially, the addition of 1 outside or 1 nail station in addition to the existing will provide a greater opportunity to offset the costs of the construction and improvements that are required as a result of this. It is important to note that the owners intend to only have 1 additional employee. They are not looking to have 4 employees nor fill their space up without room to move around and create some sort of burn and turn nail station, business here. This is really an opportunity for them to sort of leisurely work from home, make living long-term, and also have the convenience of being at home to care for their elderly family member. So if it is an appealing condition to the City Council, we would request that a cap If possible, for number of outside employees remain a conditional measure for approval, for which the owners would be responsible to comply with by means of inspection or other necessary means of compliance. This space is visible from Overland Road and also accessible directly from Overland Road. So the space is also able to be altered to accommodate required ADA accessibility and the addition of a paved parking lot behind the residence. The current proposed site plan locates paved parking directly south of the site entrance, with concern for reducing pavement costs. However, we would also request that the parking location be a conditional approval, where one location on the property is preferred over another. We do understand that the parking at the eastern side of the property is a more desirable parking location for surrounding neighbors, and parking at the east side of the site is a possibility. So overall, we feel that the addition of the nail station, transitioning this building from an in-home occupation to a commercial business, is reasonable with the employee cap and minimally impactful to the surrounding area, given its location directly off of Overland Road, which is already a heavily trafficked commercial road as it is. The requested conditions of approval for only one outside employee and parking location conditions are further justification for the minimal impact. We thank you for hearing us on this subject tonight as well, and I will stand for questions.
Questions for the applicant?
Madam Mayor, I actually have a question for Cody. I asked earlier whether any application for a home occupation business would be separate from what we were hearing tonight and not part of a special exception. As I understand it and read the packet, what the applicant just asked for is not part of what we're being asked to decide tonight, that it would have to be something that would come separately at a different time. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, the applicant is before you this evening because what they're seeking exceeds all the allowances for a home occupation. If they work within the standards of the home occupation code, that's something that we would address administratively and would only end up even at P&Z on appeal.
Okay, but what was just described to us is not what was being asked in the packet originally. So they've changed that, and now they're asking us only with the verbal information we've heard tonight to make a decision on that change.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that's correct, but it is a recommendation from planning and zoning, and because it's a special exception, you do have that discretion. It's not here on appeal.
Okay, thank you.
All right, it doesn't look as though there are any further questions at the moment. Just want to confirm, is anyone here to testify on this item?
Madam Mayor, we do have Sandra Harshman online.
I didn't hear that name, but it's somebody related to this item?
She had her hand raised.
Sure. Go ahead.
This is Sandra Harshman, and I wrote a letter on behalf of Cindy and Tony Truong. What they're requesting, I think there has been some confusion. I would like to read my letter to the board if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm writing this letter on behalf of Tony and Cindy Truong and their business life. They are both very hardworking individuals and are dedicated to their business and their family. It is with pleasure to see how responsible that the two of them are in working in their business and helping their mother and family, which is very admirable, something we don't see nowadays. When they approached the planning and zoning department, I was with faith and agreement to be able to add only one employee to their business and being able to work from home to take care of their elderly mother. Tony is the husband and Cindy is the wife. Truong both work in their business. They both currently have a parking area in the back of their home and on the back of their property in their garage. I did notice in reviewing the past information that the email sent to Kathleen Collins, which was dated July 19th, 2021, and sent from Mrs. Berman Solo from the SWACA board member, dated July 19th, 2021, mentioned in her letter dated, please see the attached example, that they wanted to have 4 employees. And I do believe this would create some confusion in regards to the parking because of that letter. This is not the case and could have been perceived as asking for more employees that they were actually petitioning for and creating additional parking for more than 3 spots. I'm bringing this to your attention because this was never the case at hand. In reality, Cindy and Tony would love to be able to work together simultaneously in their home while tending for their elderly mother. They already park on the property in the back in their garage, so no additional parking is needed for their family vehicles. And the only parking that they were requesting was for the 3 spaces for parking, which would be allocated to customers in their shop. They were struck hard by COVID in their business and petitioned the Planning and Zoning Department to have an in-home business for the 2 of them to simultaneously work at home and care for their elderly mother. They spent all of the necessary time and dollars to make this happen, and I would certainly hope that the City Council would approve their small shop and allow them to proceed. I know how diligently that they have worked to achieve this status, and that's respectfully submitted by myself, Sandra Harshman.
Thank you, Sandra. Other questions for Sandra?
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Sandra, we have a question for you.
Sandra, if you're
Yes.
still there, thank you. The applicant's representative can answer this as well. I thought I heard that what was now being requested was a special exception for a 2-station salon that allowed 1 outside employee. What I thought I heard you say was that what the applicants are asking for is a 2-station salon that would allow the 2 of them, who are the homeowners, and the occupants of the building to work those 2 stations. If that's the case, if I understand it correctly, from my prior question to our staff, that part does not require a special exception. And so I just would like some clarification about what is actually being asked here.
Well, I know that Tony and Cindy would love to be able to work together, and originally they were asking for 1 employee, and that seemed to become a hurdle with the Planning and Zoning Department. So now they would like to be able to have the 2 stations and work together simultaneously.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Further questions? All right. Is there anyone else?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have Tina Nugent.
Great. Tina, go ahead.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name's Tina Nguyen. I'm a family friend of the applicant. I've been the owner of a nail salon in the Boise Town Square Mall for 25 years. Therefore, I'm familiar with the nail profession. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Trim's unique situation. I also wrote this letter and submitted to you guys, but I would like to read it. And the Jones are at my house right now, so they're a little nervous and they're making me nervous. But
Yeah, so Tina, you can go ahead, and also council members have just let me know that they have read the letter.
Okay, should I still continue to read it, or?
I think perhaps if they've read it, it's your call. I don't want you to be nervous. It's great to have you with us, but they're also familiar with it and might have some questions.
Okay. Yeah, I was to follow up on the previous questions regarding the extra employee. I think in my letter, I have stated that the husband and wife would like to work together because their elderly mother needs more of a special care. So she needs, Cindy needs Tony to be home to help with lifting mom and assisting with mom. So I think instead of, since they've gone and had the previously asked for outside employee, and they're struggling with making changes or getting it approved. So alongside that, I think they would just like to have Cindy and Tony working together at home, if that's a possibility of getting approval.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Tina, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Tina. My name is Lisa Sanchez. I'm a member of the Boise City Council. I just want to thank you for taking the time to write this letter. We here at the City of Boise are embarking on a strategic plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion as it regards to our policies moving forward. And I think your letter is a perfect example of the information that we need to take into consideration as we evolve as a city. I don't know how this is going to end tonight, but I just really want to thank you for taking the time to talk about what it means to be of the Vietnamese culture and what it's like to care for aging parents during this time, and the way that our community perhaps can embrace that Boise kind we hear so much about. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to write this letter.
It's my pleasure to help the Jung, and I hope that you guys will listen and hear their voice a little bit, and that you'll take all that into consideration when you're making your decision tonight.
Thank you. Anything further? All right. Is there anyone else?
No, Madam Mayor.
Tina, thanks for joining us this evening. There are no more people here to sign up to testify, so we'll go back to the applicant to see if there's anything you'd like to wrap up with.
I think that we have nothing else to add to this. Thank you for hearing us.
Are there further questions for the applicant?
Madam Mayor, I have just a clarifying question for staff.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. So Cody, if we were to uphold the special exception, we could condition it in any way we wanted to. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that's correct.
And if this were a home occupation, would the two-way parking lanes still be an issue?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, allowed home occupations, again, with the one salon doesn't require, one station doesn't require any additional parking. If we kick in a second station, I guess for an employee, that's when that need for the two-way drive comes into play.
Okay, and you can't, all right. Can we make a special exception for that? Seeing that the second station would be used by an occupant of the home.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, you could condition it to that effect, yes.
Okay.
Something to the effect of no employees outside of residents of the home.
Thank you.
All right, anything further? Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to take a shot at this and I'll see if other council members support me. I move approval of CUP 21-33 11885 West Overland Road, special exception for a nail salon in an existing single-family home in an R1A zone, with the following conditions: that the nail salon be limited to 2 stations, that the nail salon be staffed by the occupants of the home, and that we allow for parking behind the building without a two-way drive, given the limited nature of the home occupation. Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I just have a clarifying question for the maker of the motion. So by allowing parking in the rear, would that be paved parking? Because one of the issues brought up by the neighbors was the gravel parking was kicking up a lot of dust. Would we require that to then be paved?
Thank you. I forgot to mention that, and I would be happy to amend my motion to also require that those parking spaces be paved so that the dust not be an issue.
Second.
Space or spaces. I don't know if it's two at this point.
Madam Mayor, I've got a question. It might have to come back to staff. I guess I'm a little bit confused because with conditions the council president put in place, my understanding from Cody's answers is that it might not even require a special exception to begin with. So that's kind of where I'm like hanging up here a little bit, is like, if we're saying that it all exists in the house, it doesn't actually sound like there would need to be anything in place, but there may not be anything that would, you would have to have something on there that would tie them from being able to have an employee. But that's already the way that the code is. So it doesn't seem like that there's anything here that would really have to be made if they were sticking to not having an employee and having it all exist within the family. Am I understanding this correctly, or am I like doing some weird circles in my head?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, the Salon, the code selection also limits it to the one station. So the special exception effectively allows that second station, but then limits the operation of the facility to those residing on the site. So it is required.
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
while Cody's standing, I just want to be clear. So our home business code has a provision that applies to nail salons and says a nail salon and a home business can only have one station.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Bajent, that's correct.
Even though, I'm not cross-examining you, I promise, I'm just trying to get my head around this. Even though the owner of a nail salon might own more than one station and keep it in their home, they could keep it in a living room next to it. They just can't sit a customer down at it.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Bajent, that's fair, yes.
So the reason that we need to pursue a special exception here, if we're inclined to assist this family in generating revenue for their ailing parents, is that our home business code doesn't permit a homeowner to sit a customer down in that second chair.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Bajent, that's correct. It would allow two stations to operate at once.
Got it. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Thank you for that clarification, Cody. I thought that's what I heard, that the one station would be allowed and the second would be a special exception. The other special exception that I believe we do need to find if we're going to allow this is the driveway being one not wide enough to be a two-way, and allow that anyway.
Madam Mayor, my question for the maker of the motion is, what are her thoughts on equal or lesser impact than allowed uses and the proximity of zones that permit the use? Because that's where I'm stumbling.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. And I would say that an allowed use on this site could certainly be a home occupation that would require moving equipment or vehicles back and forth from the front to the back of this house. And given that we can limit it only to the owners of the home being occupied there, I can foresee that this would have no more impact than other uses that would be allowed through our home occupation ordinance.
Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
This is something that I've had a hard time with in previous applications of this rule, and that's the proximity to a zone where proper, available use would be. I believe it's about a quarter mile here. That's what staff had said. Does the maker of the motion have thoughts on how to resolve that tension?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The resolution to that, and maybe I am mistaken in how I am interpreting this, is that I can, in my mind, rationally find that this use, as approved with these conditions, will not have a greater impact than another use that could be allowed here without any special exception. And having found that, don't believe I also have to find that there's a zone within distance that would allow that use, since the use is not going to have a greater impact than an allowed use would. At least that's my thought process.
I think I'm going to support the motion on these grounds. The first, that the allowed use in the zone, it's in the residential zone, includes, for example, a duplex that you could fill with college students. The home business exception, for example, includes a massage therapist or a chiropractor or a pediatrician, a home pediatrician who may bring people in and out all day long. This, combined with the nature of a nail salon business, which occurs during business hours, not at a time when residents are at home or enjoying their quiet time, typically outside of a global pandemic, all, in my mind, causes this use to fall within, below the allowed uses in the zone. The special exception being limited in this case to the second chair to be run by family members further reduces the impact and further reduces that intensity of use. And then as to the proper zoning available in the general neighborhood, I'm not sure I read that code the same way as the maker of the motion, but I think we have to find that element. And for me, a quarter mile in a residential neighborhood with these kinds of busy arterial streets that are going by is a long way. And from the user of a nail salon, salon's perspective, it's not in the general neighborhood in that sense.
Okay. Further comment?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
No.
4 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Is there something further we need to do with this one?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. And so if nothing else is before us,
Madam Mayor, I move we adjourn.
we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Sorry.